Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode of Inside Our Phillies. This is Joe, and I'm excited to be with you today. This is the first time in a long time that I'm recording solo, so let's get right into it. The Phillies came off of a great series win against the Detroit Tigers, in which they took 2 out of 3. They won 5-4 in what was a crazy game on Friday night. Saturday afternoon, 7-5 loss, and today the 2-0 win. Great pitching today by Christopher Sanchez. So game one, like I said, absolutely crazy. This was alumni weekend. We had the Wall of Fame inductions. It's always a fun time to get down to the ballpark during alumni weekend. Highly recommend it. Phillies need to get in like alumni game, like a lot of teams have, like an old timers game. That would be super cool. But anyways, game one was the Phillies' second 3-run comeback of the year, with the very first one being in Tampa. Ranger Suarez was pitching, and he went 7 innings, 3 runs. So it was a quality start. It didn't look like it was going to be that way for quite a while, but he was able to get the job done, which we like to see. And a lot of people have been talking about how they think Ranger Suarez has kind of been not as efficient recently, not as effective recently. And I pulled up some stats about this. So Ranger Suarez has now pitched in 16 games this year. In his first 6, he had a 2.32 ERA and 44 strikeouts in 50.1 innings, 50 in the third innings. In his last 8 games, he has a 3.04 ERA, which is worse, but still very good. And the strikeouts have been up. He has 51 strikeouts in the same 50.1 innings. So better strikeout rate, more than 9 per 9 innings. And Ranger Suarez is somebody that, when I was digging into these stats, I couldn't help but feel better about. I know that we've talked on this podcast before, and I've talked about how injuries really could derail this starting pitching staff. And that's still true, but I think it goes underappreciated, at the very least by me, on just how effective Ranger Suarez has been recently. He is not the guy that I'm worried about. In fact, he is probably the guy I'm like the third or fourth most worried about. There's definitely a couple of guys that I'm more worried about in the starting rotation than Ranger Suarez. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. And obviously, the big thing that we saw was Jhoan Duran. He has an insane intro. The people that were there must have been super cool. I was there today, and I will talk about that when I get to today's game. But it was just unbelievable to see something like that here. Having like a closer that really is locked down and you can trust your life with, it feels so good. And we haven't felt that for a really long time. I know people don't want to admit it, but Craig Kimbrell was good in 2023, but not this good. It didn't feel the same. And it brings a fresh vibe to this team, which I know is something that I've talked about as something that I really have been looking forward to and something that I think the team has needed. We've been seeing the same team, more or less, for a very long time now. And I think for a lot of people, that is a great thing. But at the same time, it can feel stale. At least for me, it can feel stale sometimes. And when he comes in and you hear the music and you hear the bell going off and you see him running into the darkness, I mean, that's just really cool. It's so brand new and it's so exciting to see. And I think that's really great. But what we did see on the negative side in that first game was that Harrison Bader is going to be platooning, and it's going to be interesting. It's a good time to platoon him, I guess, since you have 3 righties and 3 lefties in the upcoming 6 games, and now we're done 3 of them. So we'll see Bader start in game 1 and 3 of the Orioles series. But I just want to get Max Kepler out of here, and if that makes Harrison Bader start every day, that's fine. Even though it looks like Harrison Bader, might have fed some overperformance early in Minnesota this year, Max Kepler just does nothing for me. He does nothing for this team. And with him getting booed, I don't want it to turn into something where it turns bigger than him and can affect the entire team. And I'm a little worried that we're on the precipice of that. Him getting booed is not going to be good. I think we need positive vibes. We need things to be going well for this team. And Max Kepler still looks like he doesn't want to be here. And I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of booing people on your own team. But I booed Max Kepler tonight at the game just because I am so over him. If he looked like he gave an effort, then I'd be fine with it. He's struggling, and I emphasize with that. But when you look like you don't care, that's when it really bothers me. On the other side of that, you can care too much, and I feel like that was kind of Bryce Harper on Friday night. He got ejected in what I believe was the seventh inning. He disagreed with the check swing. He swung. He was wrong, though there were some questionable balls and strikes that were called earlier in the at-bat. But my response to that would be that it's baseball, right? Sometimes calls get missed, sometimes calls go in your favor, and that's just how it goes. Under no circumstances can Bryce Harper get ejected in that situation. His at bat could have been up in a very important situation, but the Phillies had to go to Weston Wilson to play first base because of Bryce Harper's emotional immaturity. I know that some people aren't happy when I bring that up because, everyone loves Bryce Harper. I love Bryce Harper. But if we're going to criticize Alec Boehm rightly for not showing emotional maturity, we should do the same thing with Bryce Harper. He can be the exact same way with the pouting, with the bad body language, and he gets ejected way, way too much. Every single game matters. We are separated from the Mets by half of a game. We are trading first place in the division back and forth and back and forth, and there is no time to lose a game for a silly reason such as emotional immaturity. And we were close to that happening on Friday night, which is unbelievably concerning to me. I don't want to be going on the road in the wild card series because we lose one game for a stupid reason, and that could happen. That could happen. Every single game matters, and I want this team to play with urgency like they does matter. Because here's the truth. It does. It does. Every single game matters. I am not the kind of guy that thinks you need to watch baseball like football. I think baseball is best meant kind of, relaxing a little bit more, looking at the process, looking at the journey, and then seeing where that takes you. And that's still true. I don't think it's worthwhile to get upset about every single game. You are never going to see me get upset about the umpires. If the players look like they're trying, I am not going to get on them for that. It's okay. But what is not okay with me is losing a game for an avoidable reason. If you just forget how many outs there are, if you do something, bad strategy-wise, that is the stuff that's more unacceptable to me. And Bryce Harper getting thrown out of a game that could have lost them a game, that is unacceptable for me. It just is, and I'm sorry to say that. Second game of the series was supposed to be just an incredible pitching matchup, and for the most part, I guess it kind of was. Zach Wheeler against Trick Skubal. That's just maybe going to be the best pitching matchup that you see all year. But Zach Wheeler struggled again. So in his last 4 starts, he now has a 4.94 ERA. But the strikeouts are still off the charts. 34 strikeouts in his last 23 and 2/3 innings. Only 3 walks, so K/9 is looking good as well. But where he's struggling is the home runs allowed. 6 home runs allowed in those last 4 starts, and 3 of them were in the last start. I still think that you have to say Zach Wheeler is fine. The velocity looks fine. The command, so-so, but for the most part, it's okay. And he's still being productive enough, even with these struggles. But I have a hard time fully saying that he's fine, and I do have some level of concern. Baseball Savant, you look at his page, there's red everywhere. And that does make me think that he's most part okay if he's getting that good movement. He's getting a lot of whiffs, reducing hard contact. He does allow a lot of fly balls, but more or less that's who he's always been. It's okay. So I have a really hard time disagreeing, but I think the way that I would phrase it is that I am paying attention to Zach Wheeler now. I think that this could be a situation where he just needs to sit down for a little while. I know we've said that for a long time with Jesus Luzardo, and that still might be the case. But with Aaron Nola due back in just over a week now, there is going to be the possibility to get somebody else some rest. And I think that the Phillies would be wise to consider that. Especially if you are going to call Andrew Painter up, like it seems like they might. And you still have, obviously, Taijuan Walker in the rotation, who's been okay. Not knocking your socks off, but he's been okay. The Phillies need to figure out the best way that they can win games in the postseason. I want them to win this division. I want them to lock up a playoff spot as soon as they can. But we need this team to be effective in the playoffs, and Zach Wheeler needs to be Zach Wheeler. And these home runs, these fly balls, it's just the slightest bit concerning. So I'm not concerned, but I am paying attention. I I think it's pretty easy to make a claim at this point that Christopher Sanchez is the best pitcher on this team. And that's not just because of Zach Wheeler, but it's also just because of how incredible Christopher Sanchez is. 8 shutout tonight, almost went 9 innings. And let's actually get right into a question that we got from Owen's Deck on Discord, who asked, how are we feeling about Wheeler's Cy Young odds after today's game? He put this post after Wheeler's game. So I went and I checked Polymarket. I checked out what the betting odds are on Polymarket for the Cy Young this year. And I found this to be actually quite interesting. It has Paul Skeens at 63% for the NL Cy Young. It had Zach Wheeler at 32%. And it had Chris Sanchez at 3%. So you add everything up there, that gives you 98%. So 2% that it's going to be somebody that's not one of those 3 guys. I think at those numbers, I'd probably buy Paul Skeens. 63% feels close, but I'd maybe go closer to 65 or 70. I think Zach Wheeler, I'm selling at 32%, but I think I'm definitely going to be buying Chris Sanchez. If you had to ask me for my numbers, let's make it 67% Paul Skeens, 15 or 16% Christopher Sanchez, probably about the same. Let's say 15 for Sanchez, 15 for Wheeler, and then that few percent left over, 3%, will go to the field. I think that sounds about right to me. I think it's really hard to argue that Chris Sanchez isn't the best pitcher. It feels like he is only getting better and better and better, and that's what you see on Baseball Reference. So Chris Sanchez already has his best ever career year, according to Baseball Reference, with 5 WAR already. So he's on pace for, a 7.5 WAR season, 2.55 ERA, which is quite a bit lower than the 3.32 we had last year and 3.44 the year before that. I mean, Chris Sanchez is incredible, and I don't think he's appreciated enough. Those weird home road splits, not really a thing anymore. Not that I was a big believer in those in the first place. Those kind of splits I just generally don't buy into. But I think that, to your question, Owen, Wheeler's Cy Young chances don't look great. Could he win it? Absolutely. He's Zach Wheeler. I wouldn't be surprised if he figured everything out. He comes out next start, he gives you a 7 scoreless, and then he pitches to a 1.6 ERA for the rest of the year. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But I think we have to be ready for the fact that Zach Wheeler might never win a Cy Young. Chris Sale's story was so great, where he was, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And then last year, he finally was able to win his Cy Young, which he probably deserved over Wheeler last year. And maybe we still will get that for Wheeler. But this contract isn't going to go forever. Only got a couple years left of Zach Wheeler, and it seems like he's going to retire. And I really want for him, and I want for the Phillies, that he wins the Cy Young. But it's possible that doesn't happen. It's possible. But I hope he does. I really, really hope he does. But back to Chris Sanchez. What an interesting decision it was for the Phillies and for Rob Thompson to bring Chris Sanchez out to the 9th or not. They ended up choosing to not, and they went to Duran out of the bullpen. Chris Sanchez only had about 80 pitches thrown. A Maddox, super cool. I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen a Philly throw Maddox. But I actually kind of agree with the decision to take him out, with the reason being that it was his 4th time through, and Jones and Torkelson had already had a couple hits against him each. So I think I agree with the call to take him out, especially in a close game. It was 1-0, and then obviously Schwarber hit the actually incredible home run. I mean, what power to turn it into a 2-run game. And I think it was the right call to go to Duran. And I think we saw the same thing with Skubal on Saturday. People still, even in this advanced statistical era, people don't buy into the 3rd time, 4th time through thing, and it's real. The more that hitters see pitchers, the worse that they perform, and I think that teams need to be more aware of that. You see it in the playoffs all the time. People have ropes that are not nearly as long as they are in the regular season, but at the same time, regular season games should be treated the same way. All of these teams are playing and they're still competing, and while you obviously don't want to have to work the bullpen unnecessarily, in a situation like today where you already got 8 out of Chris Sanchez, you didn't need that 9th inning, And I think everybody wanted to see Duran's entrance anyways. But I'm not going to lie, it wasn't as electric in person, which is shocking to me. When he came out, he got like a jolt of the crowd, and I was like, this is going to be so cool. But then it kind of died down. The crowd was whistling, they were into it, to some extent. But that electricity that I was expecting to be there just wasn't. I heard from some people that they messed up the timing tonight. Like, it's not like an automated mechanism that they have where they can just press a button and the whole thing plays. And apparently the timing was not right. So I'm willing to give it another shot. And I actually am going to be there tomorrow night, Monday night as well. So hopefully I get another chance. But no matter what, I think the playoffs are going to be a different story. And I think that it's just going to be so much cooler when this is the postseason. Not that it's already not cool now. I mean, this is still, better than any other closer intro that the Phillies have had in recent memory. So Duran, I mean, it's crazy. The pitch that he threw, second to last hitter tonight, 103.5, I want to say, or something like that, 103.4. It's the fastest pitch ever thrown at Citizens Bank Park. Not the fastest pitch, by a Philly at Citizens Bank Park. The fastest pitch thrown by anybody ever at Citizens Bank Park. Crazy. Like, I am so impressed by him and what he has done to this team. And that's going to be changing even more. This bullpen's going to be changing. This bullpen's going to be getting so much better. This bullpen is going to be getting back Jose Alvarado. He's about to report to the minor leagues prior to, getting his suspension lifted. He can rehab for 15 days in the minor leagues. And we anticipate that when he is eligible to get taken off of the suspension, the Phillies will call him up right away, which I believe is the 19th of August. So we'll get like a month and a half of Jose Alvarado before the playoffs, before we have to say goodbye to him once again. And his inclusion is going to be really good for keeping these bullpen arms fresh. It's going to have the bullpen go, one fewer arm. Maybe you'll see Max Lazar get sent down or something like that. And then also, within just a couple of days here, we're going to be seeing David Robertson come up, and David Robertson's going to make the bullpen get a little bit better. And it's good that we're not going to be seeing David Robertson in the super high leverage innings. He's going to be a middle reliever, it seems, at this point, with the addition of Duran. And I think that's perfect. I think that's exactly what we need. And this bullpen, to me, is looking more and more like a strength for this team. What might not be a strength is this offense. This offense has problems, and in my heart, I don't think that they're good enough. I just don't. Look at how the offense performed against starting pitchers from Detroit this series. Jack Flaherty, Friday night. 6 innings, 1 run. Not great. It's really not great. Jack Flaherty is older than he was. He doesn't have the stuff that he used to have. And he is not that effective. Tariq Skubal, 7 innings, 3 runs. That's perfectly fine. That's great against Tariq Skubal. Pitchers do stay in games too much, like I was saying, and I think that had something to do with it. If he didn't go out for the 7th, they would have struggled again. But Philly City Connect Jersey on Discord asked if we were disappointed in the team's performance to get Skubal. And I'd say no. I would say no. I went into that expecting absolutely nothing. I think the only thing that would have disappointed me would have been getting like no hit. But even then, he is incredible. You look at his pitches, and I don't know how anybody hits anything. He is insane. He is completely insane, and he is such an asset for the Tigers, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason as well, when he can, throw more often because of all the rest days. I mean, what a pitcher. Like, what a pitcher Tariq Skubal is. But this offense, again, has problems. And while I was okay with the 7 innings, 3 runs, if they didn't stretch him that one extra inning, it could have looked completely different. And then tonight, 6 innings, 1 run against 41-year-old Charlie Morton, who has a 5.42 ERA. 5.42 ERA. And Charlie Morton's stuff doesn't look good. Didn't look good from my seat when I was watching replays. Didn't look good on TV. This is a pitcher that the Phillies need to destroy. And they are just not able to. They're just not able to. The one guy that I do feel better about, and I have felt better about recently, is Brandon Marsh. Since June 20th, Marsh is hitting .279 with 3 home runs and a .735 OPS. He's not lighting the world on fire, but he is a good, valuable player. good, valuable player, especially when you don't have to play him in center field. I think it's interesting that when it was, pinch hitting time late in the game, in the bullpen, they left Martian against the lefty and hit the ball hard. Good at bat by Brandon Marsh there. But they did pinch hit for Max Kepler, and they brought in Harrison Bader. And again, why is Max Kepler here? He shouldn't be here. I am so over him. I am so over watching Max Kepler play baseball. And it's just a terrible signing. And I hope every single day that we're getting closer to the end. But at this point, I am starting to doubt that. Because when Alec Boehm comes back, it seems like Weston Wilson's going to be the guy that's optioned. And Max Kepler is just going to be here in perpetuity, forever and ever. And that is going to be a shame. When Max Kepler comes up in the postseason in a big spot, I am going to hate it. I'm going to really, really hate it. I'm not going to be confident. And I feel like it's going to burn them at some point. I just really feel like it does. Trey Turner has been ice cold recently. Like ice cold. He did pick up a hit over the series, but it's just not there right now, which is okay. I don't expect people to be hot all the time. But I think the problem is that this lineup feels like it's built around the assumption that the big guys are going to be hot at the same time, but that's just not how baseball works, right? The big guys in this lineup, who are Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, very rarely are you going to get all three of these guys hot at the exact same time. You get one, you get two, and that's pretty good, right? Like when these guys are on a hot streak, they can win games by themselves, especially Schwarber and Harper, especially with their power. But when they're not hot, when they're not all hot at the same time, you feel it. You get burned by Castellanos. You get burned by Kepler. You get burned by Boehm. Hopefully this is something where Bader can help, but I'm not convinced. You get burned by JT with his double plays, which, by the way, he's not hot anymore. Do you really trust it? You really can't. He's showing those signs of cooling down already, is what it is. But he gave us some good play there for a little while. But the depth of this lineup is not there. The depth of the lineup just isn't there. And I know that statistically, this is a top 10 offense in baseball. And I generally am somebody that likes to believe in the stats. I like looking at the stats and reading them. And I think making analytically based decisions is the smartest way to go. But I can't feel like what my eyes are seeing isn't true with this offense. And my eyes see every single night that they are not good enough. Maybe the pitching carries them the postseason, and if the Phillies do win a World Series this year, which I hope happens, we're going to look back and we're going to say it's because of the pitching, especially the starting pitching. And this offense, you can get good games, you can get good series, but I don't think you can ever feel confident that it's going to happen. And especially when they fall behind. Like I said, this was the second time all year on Friday night that the Phillies came back from down 3. It's incredible. 3 runs is not a lot in baseball, right? You can make one swing of the bat and have a 4-run deficit go away like that. 3 runs isn't that crazy in baseball, but for it to only happen twice in 100 games, more than 100 games, it's not great. It's really not great. One of the biggest problems of this lineup is Bryson Stott. He looks like he needs to go back to the minor leagues for a little while. He is swinging through molasses. He comes up and you do not expect him to hit the ball hard. You expect him to hit a pop-up. You expect him to hit a weak ground ball. And, 90% of the time, I feel like that's what you're getting. His swing just needs to be completely revamped. He needs to speed up the bat speed a little bit. He needs to hit the ball with a little bit more power. And I get that he's the 9-hitter now. He's been pushed back quite far. But he needs to be better. And really what I'm wondering after this is what do you do with Alec Boehm when he gets brought up? When Alec Boehm is healthy again, which we're probably just a few weeks away from, if that, what do you do? Because Edmundo Sosa, in my opinion, is good enough to play every day. He made a nice defensive play today. Also made a bad one that Bryce Harper bailed him out with that great catch at first base. But it's at the point for me where I almost wonder if Edmundo Sosa should be playing every single day. And I've talked about this before with Alec Boehm, and Alec Boehm's going to go back and he's going to play third base every day, which is fine. But I think I'd rather have Edmundo Sosa at second base than Bryson Stott. it would help out with how lefty heavy the Phillies are. And they would still have quite a few lefties, even, with that being the situation with Bowman at third and Stott at second. But it's something to monitor, something to consider. And now let's talk about the Mets a little bit. Mets were at home this weekend. They lost 2 of 3 at home, and they're now going to be hosting the Guardians for 3 games. The Phillies took a half-game lead as they took 2 of 3 over Detroit. And this NL East keeps going back and forth and back and forth. So much fun to have a good division race here. But it's looking like the NL East winner is the most likely team to not get a bye. I think you look at the National League West, where currently the Dodgers hold the lead, but I think the Padres could make it spicy. That's just me. And you look at the National League Central, where again, another close race. Milwaukee is currently 2 games up on Chicago. But the Phillies now are 4 games back of the Brewers, 1.5 back of the Dodgers, 2 games back of the Cubs. And right now, if the season ended today, the Phillies would not be hosting, or no, they would not be getting the bye past the wild card round. Now they'd be hosting the wild card round, but without the bye, you have to play an extra round. And even if that's at home, it's an extra chance to get eliminated. And I think that the bye is really, really important. And that just goes more and more to the point that I'm trying to really get across, which is that every single game matters. We're at the point in the year where you can really scoreboard watch. It's fun. I don't like scoreboard watching early in the year, but this time of year, I love it. I love it. So let's get into a couple other listener questions. We already hit Phillies City Connectors' question about Skubal. We hit Owen's question about Wheeler Cy Young odds. And Owen actually left us one more question as well, which is asking for the thoughts on the Phillies' implementation of the outfield. And I'm assuming this is about the platoon situation. What an interesting situation it is. Right now, the Phillies essentially are running 2 platoons with Bader and with Marsh, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I get the value of a platoon, and I'm generally pro platoon. But at this point, I feel like I've heard the word platoon too many times. When you run platoons, I think what goes under discussed is that it makes it easy to attack you from the bullpen, because it means that your bench, if you're running platoons, and let's say you're starting, multiple lefties because these are the platoon starters, and then you got righties on the bench. What if, they swapped, especially in the postseason where starters don't go as long? What if they, force the righties out by, throwing in a lefty, and then you go with the righty to counteract that? And then all of a sudden you don't have lefties on the bench to, go against the late game lefty reliever, if you're following what I'm saying. You only have a certain amount of guys on the bench, and there's more guys in the bullpen than you have on the bench. So I think that having platoons, you're making the bench less diverse, and you're making it easier to exploit the bench, which that teams will do in the postseason. I think the platoon thing is getting taken too far. And I know that we're going to be seeing it in this next series, where we're going to be seeing Kepler get 1 game, and we're going to be seeing Bader get 2. Hopefully Bader does great, Kepler does terribly, and we can put the platoon thing to an end, like it needs to be put to an end. But we'll see. Owen, to answer your question, not a fan. Not a fan of how they're implementing this outfield at all. And I think you have to question if Castellanos is really the best guy to have it in right field. He, again, with that lack of an arm, you see it when, the ball gets hit to right field and you need the ball to get thrown home. You never think it's going to happen. You never see those singles, or, what should be a single, get cut off to the runner can't advance. And you see those get stretched to doubles all the time against Castellanos. That defensive difference with him is something that I feel is becoming more and more palpable. And he's been okay offensively. He's still really easy to exploit with the breaking balls outside, Ryan Howard-esque. But you need more from Nick Castellanos. You need more, and I hope we can get it. He was not traded, was speculated could happen. And we need more out of him in right field. He's a guy that has a negative WAR. He's below a replacement level player, and you can love WAR, you can hate WAR, but it's pretty easy to look at Nick Castellanos and say that his defense is struggling. It allows runners to take extra bases. It allows runs to score. He doesn't get the balls that other outfielders would get to. And it makes it really important that the Phillies have a good center fielder. And I think that's part of why Marsh in center field doesn't work that great with this team because with Martian center field, that range just isn't really there, like it is with a Jhoan Rojas, like it will be with the Harrison Bader. And I think that having a center fielder with a really good range, you can shade them over to right field, that's fine. But I think it's really important. Martian left is perfectly fine. Martian center, something that I want to avoid going forward, personally. So now let's quickly look forward to the Orioles. It's a very important series. This is a bad team coming into Citizens Bank Park for 3 games, Monday through Wednesday. Monday night, Cade Povich going against Jesus Luzardo. Very interested to see what Luzardo looks like. I am a little bit scared. Luzardo is concerning me more and more. I am most concerned about him compared to everybody else in the rotation, and we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, but anxiously looking through, covering my face, watching, just peeking out through my eyes. We'll see what happens. Tuesday, we got Dean Kramer against Taijuan Walker. Taijuan Walker, who's been pretty good. I think Taijuan Walker is somebody that you just have to look and be really proud of what they've done. He's been a long man. He's been a starter. He's been a one-inning guy out of the bullpen. He doesn't complain. He just does what he's told to do, and that's great. And Wednesday, Trevor Rogers, who has a 1.44 ERA this year. Really good stuff out of Trevor Rogers. Not a ton of games, but still, pretty incredible to see going against Ranger Suarez. So that should be a good one on Wednesday. And you really, like I said, you have to win these games at home against a bad team. So with that being said, I think it's time to wrap up this podcast. If you want to be on the show in the future, send me a message. Let's connect and let's figure it out. Especially now as I'm going to try to put together like a big group episode where we can talk about the Phillies and, a big group of us, more than just a smaller group of one person or anything like that. I want an episode where we can really get the community together, and I think that would be cool. So if you want to be a part of that, send me a message and we'll work it out. So with that being said, thank you all for listening. I hope you have a great day. This is going to be released very late on Sunday night, going into Monday. It's 12:43 in the morning right now. I have to work in 8 hours. Not looking forward to it. But I'll get this up tonight nonetheless. So with that being said, thank you everybody so much for listening. I hope you have a good one once again. And I will see you later.